blessed unity with the L-O-V-E. Love is the solution, so set your love free with the L-O-V-E. Further evolution and blessed unity.
Good morning, self-lovers. Welcome back to the Self-Love Show. We are tuning in live today at 10 a.m. always on Thursday. And thank you for our viewers that tune in weekly with us. We are so grateful for you. And for the new ones, welcome. And just in case you don't know, we have an amazing YouTube channel that has all the previous 2 years of shows, which are gems. You know, there's a lot of good ones in there. And I just inspire you and encourage you to go there, like, share, and subscribe. And if you know someone that is needing some extra support in their life, send them to the Self-Love Show. I'm sure we have a topic that will be hot and resonate for them to support them, because the truth is self-love comes in a wide variety of aspects, and we all need the medicine of self-love. It grows us every day in our capacity to hold and embody more light and love and ultimately fulfill our purpose here on the planet. So we inspire you, we encourage you, and also on our Facebook channel and the Self-Love Show page, like and share out the video, because that helps our algorithm and grow. And guess what? That helps the message get spread far and wide for every person seeking more self-love. So thank you so much for that. And we have an amazing guest with us today. I'm so excited. Welcome, Dolphin Kasper. I'm going to read your bio really quickly, and then we're just going to jump into a juicy, hot conversation all about, what we're going to share about today. So Dolphin is here to share with us, and we'll be sharing personal stories, core principles, and powerful tools that lie at the heart of our more powerful and lasting relationship transformations. It will be playful, potent, and highly supportive to people who are ready to put their past to rest and become the central creators of their relational loves. The work is primarily about presence, vulnerability, and becoming the active ingredient in transformation on every level. Author, transformative communicator, and human potential enthusiast, Dolphin Kasper has always been keenly interested in the fundamental nature of the human condition and what its full potential is. Co-founder of Relationflix and founder of Evolve Now, he and the organizations he has created are dedicated to creating innovative opportunities for people to improve the depth, quality, and potential of their most cherished relationships. In his over 23 years of experience working with people and their relational lives, Dolphin has discovered incredibly powerful insights and methods relating to healing our past and taking full control of our present. From prison inmates to professional athletes, Dolphin has supported people from all walks of life to come home to their true nature and to transform their lives through the power of awareness and the intelligence of love. Yes, so good. Thank you for being present with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited about the conversation. Relationships are the heart of the meaning of our lives. And a lot of people, I think in general, humanity has struggled with relationship, but this last little stretch has provided unique challenges for us. So I would love to just get into a conversation that everyone can benefit from around how do we create these breakthroughs that we're looking for.
Beautiful. I really firmly believe that relationships are our pathway to ascension, so it's so true. It's our core relationship with self, spirit, and that's foundational and most important.
Yeah.
Relationships are the greatest wealth we have. I've often pondered, because I love to think, probably like a lot of us, but one of the things I was like, oh gosh, if there were no other people on the planet, then I wouldn't have any problems. Mm-hmm. I mean, besides like, had I grown up without other people, which is unrealistic, but the thought experiment of what would that look like, then I wouldn't know what loneliness would be. But since we live with 7.8, 7.9 billion realities on this planet, we are based on our relationships. Like, this is what we do. We have relationships with the grocery store, at the gas station. Like, they might be tiny little relationships or interactions, but there's a lot of places where our relationships really help define who we are by giving us the opportunity for self-awareness, or looking at our wants, needs, and values, how we respond. And where I'd love to go first is really talking about maybe how some relatable tragedies so that people are like, oh, you guys have like amazing relationships. Like, yeah, I mean, we stubbed our toes a lot, I'm sure. So can we start there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a laundry list. The one that comes to me was my first real kind of solid relationship that I could call, like, this was my partner, and we did, spent lots of time together, and it spanned a couple of years. And one of the things that showed up in this was in my early 20s. One of the things that showed up in this relationship was my desire to be the good person, the good boyfriend, to do the things that I had learned from all sorts of different places that a good person and a good boyfriend does. And inevitably that had me, not always, but on a relatively regular basis, show up with something that wasn't fully authentic. It wasn't fully me. It wasn't fully my truth. And as this relationship unfolded, it was beautiful. Like, she was a beautiful woman. We enjoyed our time. There was lots of love and intimacy and connection and appreciation of one another. But over time, a kind of intangible distance started to get created. And the way I would describe it is that some of what the relationship was based on was inauthentic. And in that inauthenticity fundamentally lacked intimacy and connection. And so this is where I think a lot of people who can't put their finger on it, but don't feel fully satisfied in their relationship. Like, everything looks and feels great. Their partner isn't some terrible demon or catastrophe. It's just they don't fully feel seen and known and at home in the relationship. And for me, it was just clear as it got closer to the end that I had sacrificed my truth in the interest of what I thought they wanted and what I thought would make the relationship great. And I kind of rebounded from that relationship by spending 2 or 3 years like saying everything, like saying it exactly as it was, which was also an interesting experiment in, I think a lot of people think we show up with our authenticity and then everything goes well. It's like, not necessarily. You show up with your authenticity and you get to find out who's genuinely interested in that and who is not. So, that relationship was a real learning for me around the subtleties of the difference between doing what we think is true and good and right, and deeply grounding into and attuning to our truth in spite of the consequences of that truth, which takes courage and takes a willingness to, in a way, put the truth and authenticity before the other person, before the relationship, and even before ourselves. That there's something powerfully transformative that happens when the truth comes first. And so that was the relationship ended in a very painful way, because at the end of the relationship, I came clean about what I hadn't been expressing, and that was really hard for them and painful for me as well.
Wow. It just brings forward so much for me to hearing your story of the times in my past and in relationships I had before my beloved, and really stirs the sauce of like, oh yes, I remember those places where I was struggling with my own authenticity, of like feeling like I couldn't be fully expressed or myself. And I too have had those same experiences. And thankfully, I was able to sift through it and peel back the layers and choose a partner and be in partnership where I can be fully met and held, and like in my grief and in my, I'm met. And that feels really, 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 even this past, I just be honest, even this past, week, I had another big layer of healing come forward around my own family dynamics with my dad's passing and what's going on with my brother, and just the deep generosity going on with my brother. And I was so struck by, like, not shock, but I mean, I've known this about my brother, but when it came forward in my text messages and through our loving conversation, I just held my phone and I started sobbing immediately, just with gratitude. It was a mixed bag of all these emotions. And my beloved just looked at me and just pulled me close and just was holding me, and didn't need to even say anything to me. And that is just a testament to like how much I changed and how much healing I've done, because in past relationships that would have never taken place.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful when we have the opportunity to recognize the richness of what's difficult about relationship, and opening to the unresolved pieces, opening to the unexpressed emotion, can be like a floodgate, but it also brings with it the presence to the joy and the meaning of life. I like to say to people that joy and pain travel along the same channels in us. And so if we close off to one, we close off to the other. And it's an unavoidable truth.
Yeah. Wow, that's such a profound statement you just said. I love that. Thank you for bringing that forward.
I love that you're sharing about authenticity and showing up in truth. And like my heart's all like, what I really love about putting the truth first is a piece that isn't really taught in our culture, is really showing up as honesty as the foundation of relationship. So what is really true within me is actually how it lives in the world. So some of our viewers and our listeners, and I know you both know that I primarily work with people with codependent tendencies or people-pleasing tendencies. And that not only is it sort of like a familial pattern, but it's also like individual, cultural pattern or societal pattern to think that love is sacrifice or love is people pleasing, or if I fawn, or if I, what did you call it? Be the good boyfriend, or, or if I be the submissive woman, or God, what other, like, there's like a ton of freaking labels out there that we could be
the perfect
to
wife.
get the love that be the perfect wife, be the mom,
wife.
like these labels, right, that are actually, be a man, ooh, be a woman, be, like there's these boxes or these molds that we can fit into, which are pretty, they're really inhumane, and they're really not authentic. And it's part of the inner work to kind of like, strip away the layers, to dissolve, to demold some of the program. And in fact, one of my stories right now is based on, the social beauty standard of being like a thin female that's like looks a certain way. And I, like some of my previous partners are like, hey, you'd be more attractive if you had abs, or if you had, if you were thinner, or if you had a dancer's body, or like dot, 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 dot. I was like, oh my gosh, can I get thinner without eating? Like, and it's those places that we learn through these things, is that we learn how to quote unquote be a good boyfriend, or be a good girlfriend, or be a wife, and it's these inauthentic places that we learn how to get our needs met. And this is what I want to come back to, is that there's all these strategies to get our needs met that chip away at our spirit, or our soul, or the who we are, that aren't in the authentic truth. So finding the ways, like getting, starting to dive in and becoming self-aware to find what is our authentic truth. How do we show up is like, who I was 10 years ago and who I am now. I was a good girlfriend back then, but now I'm honest. And I'll tell you exactly where I'm at, so that there's no, you don't have to like, I wonder if Trish is happy, or I wonder, like there's no confusion, right? So
And you're not
just to say, I'd love to hear what?
I was going to say, you're not willing to sacrifice your honesty any longer.
Because that's the integrity piece. Integrity for me, and I'd love to take it here is integrity for me is when your thoughts and your actions and your beliefs align with how you move in the world. Like, are you moving in that direction? Like, if I'm out of integrity, if I'm like, thinking, I'm just going to use Dawn as an example, is like, if I'm thinking Dawn's this murmur, 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 and I'm like, hi, Dawn, how you doing? And I'm like, there's something out of integrity there, and that's going to be felt between her and I, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm moving from that integrity. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how integrity lives for you and how integrity lives in relationship.
Yeah. Wow. Integrity in myself and in relationship. I'm just wondering where to go here, because there's so many threads to understand what it means to be in integrity. Like I like the idea of kind of thought, word, and action lining up with what our beliefs are, what our kind of internal reality is, and I would say that's a good place to start. And I also notice, as I explore integrity, as I explore authenticity and honesty more deeply, it's not so straightforward and obvious. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. So honesty could be thought of as like telling the truth, speaking what's true. But when we get more into it, and especially as we evolve in the direction of authenticity and honesty, just because something is occurring, just because it's real in you, doesn't mean it should be expressed. And the rightness of expression depends on many, many different things. It depends on the person you're with, the circumstance you're in, your own state, your own level of evolution and awareness. So whereas someone who's been very dishonest and has withheld communication a lot in their life, there's likely a long period of exploration and integration around speaking the pieces they have withheld in the past. And in that way, honesty for them is about speaking those pieces. Whereas for someone who constantly shares what's going on, and that's their default, and they don't really attune to the moment around what's really being called for them, honesty might be having thoughts, having an inclination to express, and just being with that inclination without speaking. Because for them, honesty is about learning an attunement to what of the millions of things that are going on in us, what is really meant to be expressed, what is really an honest way to discern the rightful expression of our inner state. So, there's simple things that we can kind of start to include to align with integrity if we haven't, but there's a lifetime of exploration around mastering what it means to be in integrity with our inner truth, because it's not to say right now I'm having an itch on my knee, and the next moment now I'm having a coolness across the back of my neck. Now I'm having a judgment of this or that. Now I notice I'm seeing a light in the corner of my left eye. Like, if we communicated our full experience, we wouldn't connect, because everything would be about communicating our experience. So it's, again, like, honesty is a vast world of nuance and complexity. And being in integrity with honesty is in some way very personal. But I also believe there are underlying archetypes or central truths around how we can reference something real to help us attune to the rightness of expression, the rightness of expressing our truth and our honesty.
Can you give an example?
Yeah. So one of the things I'll often support people that are struggling, like, constantly life is about crossroads, right? We come to something and there's a choice involved, and we're looking at the choices and we're looking at the consequences of the choices, and we're like, oh God, what do I do here? And oftentimes there's a kind of opacity to the right decision. We can't quite get at it. It seems as though we can't get clear. And for me, one of the main things that gets in the way of clarity at these crossroads is that we have vested interest in the outcomes of the choices we make. In other words, we have preferences. I would prefer, especially if I'm an anxiously attached person, I would prefer that my partner stay close, that I have some sense of control and security around what happens, and that, I'm able to kind of stay in my comfort zone around the relational dynamic. So then opening the relationship up in a way where there's more freedom and less control, I can't see that choice clearly because of my interest in my own ability to manage things and my own anxiety. So one of the things that we can do to get much more discerning and much more effective with clear choices is come into a space where you select, in this case, we'll simplify. There's 2 clear choices to make, and then a sense of the road that would lead to. And do a thought experiment where you walk each of those roads in their fullness. All of the beauty, all of the negativity, all of the pain, all of whatever would be involved in making this choice and that choice. And then come to a place inside where you genuinely would be okay with either. If we can create a space of equanimity, even if we still have kind of thoughts and feelings of preference, if we create a bigger space of equanimity that either road is okay with us, either choice and path that choice leads to is okay with us, all of a sudden it's like we create stillness in the water where there's all this murky muddiness. And over time, that silt that's in the water settles because we're not stirring it up with an unnecessary attachment to the outcome. So the less we're attached to the outcome, the less preference we hold as like something that should be ours, the more clearly we see a more objective rightness to one choice over another.
I just want to bring forward this beautiful statement about integrity. Integrity is having the courage to go with the truth as you know it, as a heartfelt response with care and consideration for others. That's by John Roger. And choosing to live in your integrity is choosing to live in your greatness. Mary Holnick. And I love this. So integrity comes from the Latin integratus, meaning wholeness. So I see integrity as it's got the word grit in it. And grit is really about, leaning in. Our spiritual curriculum is always being expressed through our relationships. And grit is an opportunity to kind of lean in where it might feel like a little sandpapery at times. And that's an opportunity to keep leaning in to the loving and leaning in and being willing to shine your diamond there. And that's that grit. And like, really, it's about alignment in the soul at all times and bringing back wholeness, because we really are an expression of wholeness always. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, beautiful. I just read a piece from Ram Dass about life being our curriculum. Like each of us has our own tailor-made curriculum for our own learning and evolution.
Absolutely.
And that the contents of our life is the perfect curriculum for us. So I love that you brought that word in.
Oh, it's foundational for me as a spiritual psychology major, and like it's spiritual curriculum. That's our learning here on Earth School. And it comes forward in our relationships.
There's so many places that my brain goes generally. And I'm curious a little, so there's a discernment piece to integrity, and that's gonna take some practice. Because sharing like a moment by moment would just be kind of wild. And also what do we share and what do we withhold from other people in the sake of like how from the world. The discernment is what I also heard. We started the conversation with authenticity, and we started the conversation with like, how did you called it? You said something about it came clean. And I'd love to hear from both of you and even the people who are watching and listening right now is when was the moment where you're like, oh crap, I'm not being authentic here. And as an example, one of the pieces for me, I was in a 5-year relationship, deeply, it was beautiful and loving, and then it got really crunchy because I was fawning, meaning that I was being codependent because I didn't want the conflict, and there were, it was tragic and abusive mentally and physically in this moment, but there was a place where I really wanted to manipulate his reality so that I could get my needs for love met. And at a certain point, there was a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I've contorted so much and I've become this mold of what I thought that he wanted that I don't even know who I am and I'm not happy anymore.
Mhm.
I'm just like, I don't even know where my happiness lives or what I want because I don't even know. So I'm curious about your places of like your aha where you weren't living authentically or in integrity with your own values.
I want to say one thing before I jump into that. You mentioned before this dichotomy of like sharing versus withholding, and
Mhm.
I think that's a dichotomy that plays in us for sure, but it's not really a binary. In other words, it's possible for there things to be at play in us that we don't share, but that we're also not withholding. So to me, withholding is a more like an active relationship with something inside that it kind of is calling to be shared, and we choose to not share it, which is a withholding, versus things that are just at play in me, and I'm at home with them, and I can see there's not a need to share them. In which case, it's not shared, but it's also not withheld. I just wanted to kind of make that distinction. I think it's important.
Of
Uh,
course.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
tending to black and white. It's that you had used this term withholding before.
yeah, yeah,
And
totally.
I want to, great distinction there. Yeah. I mean, I don't need to share that I like, like I'm like, oh, I'm desperately needing to share that I ate gummy bears because I feel so something about it. And you're like, I don't care. Like it's about the distinction, the discernment of those moments. Totally.
Yeah,
Thank you for clarifying that.
yeah, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, in terms of relating, as we explore honesty, it's not often that it comes through in a lightning bolt where everything dishonest gets illuminated and we can see it all. It's more that it comes in waves of different sizes. I think for a lot of us, there are consistent waves throughout the day of moments where an authentic way of being and expressing is at hand, and we just quash it. And for some of us, we don't notice that we're doing it. We're so trained in the management of authenticity because of the consequences of it. Like the only reason we would not be authentic is because at some point we were and it didn't go well, right? Like the cost of authenticity is high. So for us to subscribe to authenticity as a way of being is a reflection that we've done it and it didn't go well, and we decided that's not worth it anymore.
Mhm.
So for me, when I really am honest and I reflect, I notice subtle and overt ways throughout that 2-year relationship in this case, where I wasn't really available to my own truth. And that's for myself first. Like there's ways I wasn't expressing myself authentically because I wasn't present to them. And so that's still a lack of integrity with authenticity, even though I wasn't consciously going, oh, there's this thing and I'm going to choose not to share it with my partner. I was holding myself in a way that wasn't authentic. And so, for us to really realign with authenticity, it's strikingly uncomfortable to the degree that we've invested in anything inauthentic. So this is something where a strong amount of self-awareness and self-honesty and willingness to feel our own discomfort is required for us to begin cleaning out inauthenticity. And I like the word cleaning. There's something unclean about inauthenticity, and
Yes.
we can get into the meaning that I ascribe to the word clean, but it's not even making inauthenticity bad. It's just that there's an experiential, relatable difference to when we're real and aligned all the way through, and when we're not, and not being real all the way through, and with the way that we relate and communicate, leaves messes. It leaves messes in our own conditioning, and it leaves messes in our relationships. And so for me, the cleaning it's not like a good versus bad relationship. It's a clean versus not clean relationship. And that's an uncomfortable process. And very few people, like extremely few people, are clean all the way through. It's It's just a staggeringly rare thing in our world, not because it can't happen, but because the cost is so high.
I'm gonna share a vulnerable thing that it's not in my relationship with my beloved, but it did come forward in relationship partnerships with work dynamics. And so I'm just going to share. I had this opportunity come to me through a beautiful person, and it was flowing and it was great. And the person that connected me to do the work loved me, and then wanted to all of a sudden cut the middleman out, right? And I didn't feel good about that. It didn't resonate inside of me. And so I was like, I asked questions and I worked for them, but it didn't feel good. And so I kept bringing it forward like, hey, to the actual person that was creating that scenario. And the cost is high of authenticity, right? And in the past, I would have never been brave to share that because it was riding on the edge of, oh, this is a job I need, right? Those kind of things. And I just was brave. And I said, you know what? This is inauthentic to me to withhold how I truly feel about this. And I'm going to practice my bravery here. And ultimately the cost was high. I lost the opportunity because they were like wanting to move me into a position of doing like online things and but at the cost of cutting out relationships I was like, this is so not authentic for me. And so I sacrificed the whole thing by being authentic. And that's okay, because I know I'm in alignment with spirit ultimately, and I didn't hold back my truth. And I know that greater opportunities are unfolding because I said yes to me and yes to honoring my relationships on a whole. Do you know what I mean? And so that's an example of the cost of authenticity and how it can show up. And like I was afraid that would happen, and it absolutely did happen. But I was willing to go there because I was not willing to keep that dynamic of separation unfolding.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm sure in that experience you could feel the cost, sort of the underlying current of the cost of doing what you were knowing. And that was a crossroads. You could have just said, oh no, it's okay, and justified it, which we do all the time, right? We come to a crossroads, there's a chance to be authentic at cost, and we convince ourselves that not paying that cost is a better idea. And that's easy to do.
And I have no regret about that. Like, I feel good in my heart knowing that I know that I stood my ground and I did the right thing. Not even I had to stand my ground, that I was just authentic and shared from my heart and said, I really want to keep including these people because that's how we met. And that means everything to me.
Yeah, beautiful.
And ultimately it just fell off. And that was a sign to me of like, oh, okay, that's okay. And just like deeper acceptance of like knowing that spirit is going to keep bringing beautiful opportunities that are in full alignment.
When that happened, was it like a visceral sensation? I'm just curious, your discernment or your ability to get clear in that moment. Like, what do you relate to as sort of the North Star? Like, what did you reference that allowed you to kind of stay clear in that situation?
It's really just about honoring relationships for me. Like I'm not willing to step on toes to climb the ladder to when it comes to prosperity, it's like all is welcome and all benefit. And it's not a like cut someone out to like, that just doesn't resonate with me at all. And that, I'm healing an intergenerational pattern of that gone on in my own family dynamics where, my grandfather was like cut out of his own inheritance. And then it happened again with my own father. So there's this place of like remaining integral when it comes to like financial exchange is so important. And there's a deep like honoring of like all people, that all people's points of reference matter. And, there's a way to go about it that's honorable and loving and kind and generous and honoring. And it's not like, oh, too bad, you missed out. Like, now it's mine. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not the way. I don't feel that is the way to. I think we're mending a deep cultural rift of that way of relating in the past, you know, in jobs and economy and all kinds of things. It's like there's a new earth paradigm being born of all prosper.
Yeah, awesome. So I hear just around it being principled in one way, like there's just a principle around how you navigate and relate. And then you use another word that I really like around there's a way to do it. So that's like a kind of ontological perspective on exploring and pursuing endeavors together, is that there's a way to go about doing that works and that's real. And there are ways to go about doing that are not. So, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I thank you for the opportunity to share, because I'm sure we're all faced with really challenging circumstances in our relationships and work lives where it's like it's really edgy to be fully authentic and share that piece of information. But if we don't, we pay the cost.
Yeah.
I think that what I'm hearing is that there's a piece of an integrity, and that aligns with it's integrity and authenticity is a very individual and personal experience. That it's a dare I say a place, for lack of a better term in the moment, but there's a foundation or a value system in which you live from. And so Dolphin, your integrity and my integrity, or Don, like all of our integrity and our authenticity lives in a different way. So if I was a drag queen, my integrity would to be, put on like wild makeup and to have this movement. Or if I was more of maybe my mother, her integrity is to live in this sort of 50 style housewife dynamic, because that is true to her center. And so she shares from that place. So what I'm hearing from what in Dawn's story and what I heard is that place of not just stream of consciousness sharing on your honesty, but really sharing what feels up and alive and true in the moment. That's from your core. Yeah. So to kind of nail this down, or to like drop it down, is like a personal experience around. I'm trying on this experiment right now, where every decision that I make is based on nervous system regulation, because I have a tendency not to do that. And I'm just like, I wonder what it looks like, and that is this experiment is part of my integrity of like seeing how to notice what my body feels like and what looks And so I have a decision that I needed to make at 10 today about integrity, about my living in my integrity and showing up for another person, and being clear on a time frame. So in that sense of showing up in, can I be fully present? Is it fully in my nervous system to show up in that way? Right. So Dawn's nervous system, or Dawn's value system, your value system, is really individual. How we live in authenticity is very individual. How we show up in our relationships and what we want there, to step out of the mold of what we're taught to do. Right. I don't know if that made any sense.
Yeah. Like, it made sense to me. I think that I want to kind of open the dimension of that, what you're sharing about, in terms of the individuality, the individual nature of rightness, we might call it, like a right thing to do, a right way to be. It's clear that if I try to be you, that will inevitably take me away from being true to me in certain ways and on certain levels. However, if we look at it from just a different angle, where 99.99999% of our genetics is the same,
Yes.
We are far more alike than we are different, far
Mhm.
more. Now, the differences are quite obvious to us. They're overt and they're obvious and they're on the surface. But if we dig just a little bit below the surface, we are so much the same, so as to make us, you know, akin to clones of each other with different content that has
Mm.
populated our lives. And so, I think there are underlying principles, underlying archetypes of human existence that are universal. And I think the attempt to erase that universality is incredibly problematic. Just like erasing as
Yes.
if the surface differences aren't there is also problematic. But how do we rightly honor the deeper truths of our sameness and the more superficial truths of our differences in their rightful places and in their rightful ways? This is how we live in harmony within ourselves and with each other. Now, easily said, but to really to be in the living of that with each other means constantly bumping up against the existing conditioning that is somehow not that yet. So wherever it's not yet aligned, wherever we're not totally clear on the underlying sameness and the more superficial differences, and clear about the value and meaning of those samenesses or differences, we're going to meet conflict and discomfort. And so I want to bring in a concept that I think is helpful. It's been really helpful for me, and I use it constantly with people I work with. And that is, if we want to break life into two categories, just as a thought experiment, if we want to go there, is like there's the content of life.
Yeah.
The content of life is the things, the people, the experiences, things we can count, things we can label. And then there's the context of life. It's the container, the space within which life unfolds. And when we can start to let in the idea that the context is not static,
Yes.
as a human being, somehow I have access to directly changing or shifting the context. I can create a very small, narrow, rigid context for my life, and the content of my life and how I make sense of it plays in a certain way. But the moment I shift and open my context for life, when I make it about something different, something more, something deeper, the content of my life begins to make different sense to me and begins to have more range of movement. There's more possibility in the content space. So for me, getting that life is full of content, but informed by context, and that I am the creator of the context, I
Yes.
now become far more empowered when it comes to the active ingredient in my own change and transformation. It's not that I'm the victim of my circumstances in a way, and I don't want to get too kind of sort of warm, fuzzy spiritual platitude, but like when I am clear that I create the context, my content is in service to my growth and evolution. That the circumstances of my life, in particular the difficult circumstances, are the greatest vehicles for my healing and integration, the greatest vehicles for my growth and evolution. And that takes a willingness to be with the full feeling of life more deeply. And that's a painful operation. So for anyone out there that has struggled and has felt like they can't get at the solution or the answer, the first solution, if we want to call it that, is let in the idea that you are the creator of the context for your life, meaning you get to choose what game you're playing. And when the game you're playing matters enough to you, the difficulties will start to feel like puzzles you want to dive in and solve versus catastrophes that are just making your life miserable.
Oh, you're bringing forward such gold here. I love it. And we share the same language. I say it a little slightly different, but it's the same language. So it's in spiritual psychology, we call it goal line living or soul line. And to move into the soul line, it's helping you get past, that limited perspective that can go on in the goal line type of thinking. And it's like really moving into the spiritual context to really allow yourself to see the opportunity at hand, right? Because that is your spiritual curriculum unfolding. And what is the opportunity for you? What is the golden opportunity for you to reframe it and hold it in a new way and learn to cleanse your lens of perception around how you hold it so that the spiritual context can unfold in a new way for you?
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Yeah. So it's really like learning to live into the soul line, opportunity at hand. Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful.
There's so much that I want to talk about. Like I'm like, oh gosh, this show could go like forever. And I realize I'm looking at the time and realizing that there is a place that we should go, maybe. Because I mean, this is so juicy. Like this particular nugget that you shared, Dolphin. This one would be a really fun place to really evolve a larger conversation about how to like how to actually work this and how to play to really expand this in every day.
Mm.
Oh yeah, God. Yeah. So and really I love how you share it, and I love where your heart is so much.
Beautiful.
Um
I mean, just what you brought there, I think for a lot of people, the content is all they see. So, and then it's
Yeah.
normal and natural for that to be the case. You know, like there's the mortgage, and there's the kids, and there's the schedule.
Yeah. Like make it so sometimes our viewers have shared that they like the language in bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
So it's like I couldn't follow this show because it was too like the concepts were too big. So share more about what content would look like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then context looks like.
Yeah.
That'd be
Cool. Yeah. So for someone that feels overwhelmed with life and they don't have a lot of time each day, they feel like they run out of time. They get into conflict with their partner because there's too many things on their plates and things are getting dropped and there's stress. Maybe there's sort of financial pieces at play in terms of just being able to afford the basic things that need to get afforded. In those cases, the nervous system is getting activated in a way that's something like survival mode. So, and there's a lot of evidence around this in terms of the research. Modern human beings are in a stress response the majority of time. So that we're in this state of feeling triggered and anxious and at odds, or at least in defense against the threats that we perceive in life. And on some level, we know that we want more space, we want more connection, we want more ease. The challenge becomes like, what's the pathway? Like, how do I actually start to create that for myself? And so I want to just give two really simple pieces that I think are incredibly potent and accessible to everyone. One is something like a relational asset map of our lives. So what that means is to look at the people that you're connected to and the people you are or could spend time with, and give some thought to who is already along the path, preferably further ahead of the path that you're on. Where do you want to grow into? And who do you know and are connected to that is sort of already moving in that direction or ahead of you along that path? Excuse me. Find ways to connect with them more often. Find ways to spend time with them more often. Even if you're not directly, like maybe it's a coach and you want to work with them, that's great. But even if it's just going and having tea with someone, when people have embodied integration and growth, we get that just from being around them. Like nothing is more powerful to a dysregulated nervous system than a regulated nervous system. So how do we begin populating the time and spaces of our lives with people that are what we want to become? That's one of the simplest, most powerful ways we can start to transform.
Gorgeous.
The other one that I want to share, just because it's so simple but not implemented, is you already have things that nourish you. So it could be that there's a sport you used to play when you were younger and you loved it and you felt alive and it gets your blood flowing, your body moving, your sweat rolling. But you haven't played it in 5 years. Or maybe there's an art, a way to express yourself. Maybe there's a martial art, or maybe there's a community project or a nonprofit. Pick one thing that you know makes you feel good about life that you don't do anymore, and populate, even once a week, populate your life with it again. So if we do those two things, everything else is great, but those two things feel like the simplest, quickest, easiest ways for us to begin creating momentum in the direction of our own healing and growth.
Dolphin, I love you. You're just
Wonderful, wonderful advice. Thank you so much.
Speaking of advice, I bet you have something you might want to share for this afternoon. Morning. Where are you?
I'm
Speaking of-
I'm mountain time. I think we're just crossing over. Yeah, we're just near noon here.
All right.
So yeah, you guys asked me to share a piece, like a process that we can use. And yeah, I thought about this one for a little while. And one of the things that I love to do is I love to guide people in something that has made a big difference for me. And so this one is about withholding. It's about how we clean up our withholding. And so what I want you to do is I want you to take a moment, if you feel comfortable and you can sit up straight and kind of align all of your joints and bones in a comfortable way. And if you feel safe enough, you can close your eyes and just begin to take nice, full, nourishing breaths. Don't try to do anything special with your breath. Just notice and enjoy what it is to take a breath in your body. And you're going to imagine a relationship and an interaction that happened recently, to as recently as you can remember, where there was something that wanted to be said, there was something that was asking to be said, and you didn't say it. And so you're just going to bring yourself into that moment. Remember where you were, remember what was going on around you, remember the person, how they were, how it felt to be with them. And then just remember that first, the feeling in your body. Usually the feeling in our body that says something uncomfortable is calling to be spoken. There's usually a kind of tightening or a constriction or some kind of discomfort that shows up at some place in our body. So just notice if you can remember the way your body responded to a sense of something to share that you maybe didn't want to share or that you were afraid to share. And just allow it. Instead of seeing or perceiving that discomfort or that tightness as a problem, consider it as a part of you bringing a really important message, which is probably something like, there's something important going on right now, and it's probably going to be uncomfortable to share this. There might be a cost in sharing this. And whereas often our implicit experience of withholding is we don't get to the other side of the coin, this is where I want us to slow down. So in that moment, there was a sense of discomfort. There was a sense of risk or threat to sharing what was uncomfortable there. But then the other side of the coin is, what's the opportunity in speaking that truth? What happens if you decide it's just what's going on and it's okay? And in spite of the result of sharing this, it's a truth that's good to share. It nourishes my own relationship with authenticity. And in a real way, it nourishes the relationship I'm in through authenticity. So I want you to just take a little bit of time where there's room for this experience to be uncomfortable. It's not wrong or bad. And there's a space and a time that we're creating to tune into the value and the opportunity in doing what is difficult or uncomfortable. And so I'm going to give you a few seconds just to tune in. What would that be for you? What is the opportunity of sharing something that you've withheld from someone that you care about? What would be possible through that share? And then just feel and see yourself in a way that's very clean and clear, speaking the truth of that. And feel free to just intuit their receiving of your truth. So this is a version of what I call rehearsal. It's us tuning into something that maybe we're not as good at as we would like to be, or we would like to create some kind of practical shift in. And we simply create space to rehearse the experience is as fully and experientially as we can. And that in a real way, when we do this well, it transforms our relationship with that particular behavioral pattern and brings us to a place where the next time we're in it, there's more awareness, there's more attunement to the real value and opportunity at play, and there's experience, practiced experience of how to do it well. And that can make a really big influence, a really big improvement around how we have difficult conversations and how we can begin living in a way where withholding is not how we operate in relationship. So that's my piece.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For defining and giving us a tool for withholding, and really, I really like low stakes self-awareness moments, because, you know, like I could be like, you know, sharing my vulnerable piece without having kind of that integrated understanding of my authenticity and my integrity, right? And sharing from this like nervousness or this like uncentered place can be so, it can just land really oddly for self and other. And to be able to practice this before is like, oh, am I not sharing my full loving truth? You don't have to be brutal with it. You can be like, hey, I'm not moving in the way that I said that I was moving, and what show it. And, you know, so gosh, yes. I love that you brought in the piece about withholding, because it's so, how often do we do that in the world, that we're like, oh, and then we pause because of the fear, because of the, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get what I want, or the love that I need, or be met in the way that I'm hoping to be met. It's pretty common.
I also see it as an opportunity to, you know, in that moment, explore why you're withholding and what do you make it mean about yourself and the judgments that are attached to all of that. And it's an opportunity to excavate all of that, release it, and then express your truth in a loving way where the other person can meet it and hear it. Because ultimately they want the same as you. They want connection. They want to have deeper intimacy. And it's just excavating the barrier that's between you.
Yeah, reminds me of that Rumi poem about it's not for us to seek for love, but to remove all the things that we've put in the way of it.
Barriers between it. Yeah. It's true.
I also come back to this. I mean, you said you brought up Ram Dass earlier, and I don't remember the guru that he shared this was from, but it was, I come back to Tatvam Asti, which is I am that too. So when in the moments of wanting to withhold, or in the moments of a judgment against another person, it's like, can I just take the breath, the pause, and be like, oh, I am that person as well. That all lives inside of me, and it's a place where I'm creating the judgment or the barrier to love within and without. So.
Yeah, I think it was Ramana who as a student of his was asking, you know, about enlightenment and integration, and you know, once you do that, they were asking, well, then what about the others? Like, what do we do about the others that are not that yet? And Ramana said, there are no others.
Ramana Maharshi.
Yeah.
There are no others.
Well, actually, I think his words were, what others?
What others, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, you know. We all three shared a little bit of this. It's the finding, gosh, the being human is a wild experience. Like, this Disneyland is like amazing. It has all sorts of experiences, and woo! And what I love about sort of what we're all talking about is finding the individual and honoring that, but also honoring the collective, the whole. I call it the triple win. Because, you know, if Dolphin wins and I win, then everyone wins. Is that like, can we like move from that place? That's part of my value system. So in that sense of like, and Dawn shared that as well in her words. So remembering that we are all the same, and would you say the content is different? Yeah. Oh, what a great show. I'm gonna ponder this today and get all juiced up. I'm gonna juice it up for my day. Dolphin, tell us a little bit about your projects and where to find you and how that all.
Yeah.
How do
Cool.
we find more of you?
Thank you. Okay, well, I mean, I have two projects. One includes me, but I'm really in the background, and that is Relationflix. So this is an online platform with a beautiful, robust group of educators from a whole bunch of different lineages and modalities and perspectives, bringing you everything you need to know about transforming your relational life. So it's an online subscription-based platform. We wanted to make it really accessible and just put as much knowledge and information in people's hands to help them transform their romantic lives. Lots of things coming. There's a writers community bubbling. Live broadcasting will be there soon, and just a large video on demand sort of content ecosystem that you can plug into. And yeah, people can get that through relationflix.com. And that's FLIX, FLIX.com, and at Relationflix Official on Instagram. Those are probably the two primary places. There's YouTube and there's Facebook as well, so you can seek us out. The other piece that I'm doing, I'm just in completion and pre-sale of a long-term group coaching program called the Relationship Breakthrough Accelerator. So that's pouring my 23 years of experience into a program that people can plug into and get powerful, immediate transformation and results, and long-term support and community, which feels like often a missing piece for transformational programs. So that's, people can just go to my Instagram at Dolphin Kasper. So it's DolphinKasper. That's my Relationflix, or sorry, that's my Instagram handle. And my bio link, the link tree, has all the things you would need to kind of reach out. You can get on a call with me and we can chat about whether the program is a fit. And yeah, it's just for anyone that has long-standing patterns and dynamics of feeling stuck, feeling unmet, feeling like they can't create the relationships they want. That is what the Relationship Breakthrough Accelerator is for.
Yay! Congratulations. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's been a ton of work and it's been lovely.
Oh, beautiful. I'm so honored to know you and to support your work in the world, and such beautiful heart sharing. And I know you make major transformation for the people you choose to work with.
And if you haven't seen Dolphin's content or Relationflix, you should check that out. I posted all the links, and it's so juicy and good. And for someone else that I know that knows all about how much work creating a program is.
Yes, I'll take the floor. So thank you. Thank you.
Find the most awkward ways to pass the baton to Dawn. It's just like not my forte.
I love you so much. Thank you. Yeah, so this is really an opportunity. I have a beautiful 4-day Sovereign Queen Challenge coming up for those women that are ready to really explore a deeper dive into their relationship dynamics. I do the similar work, and it's an opportunity. It's a 4-day free spiritual activation for women seeking really, if you've been in a relationship, long-term relationship, or just experiencing deep patterns, again, where you haven't felt, met, seen, heard, or it feels wildly out of balance and you can't figure out how to restructure it, rework it, and you're ready for that deeper exploration. So this is a beautiful opportunity to come and learn why, the number one reason why triggers take place in relationships firsthand. There's a lot of juicy activations. I'll be giving away gifts and amazing things for 4 days. It's free. It's August 15th through the 18th. And then from there, I'll share all about my beautiful program. The opening, the doors will open again in September probably. And so Unleash Your Sovereign Queen, and it will be transformed. It was a 9-week program, but I'm actually going to extend it and make it longer. So that's exciting. Yeah, so come join me, get the activations. It's free. It's juicy and delicious. The link is in the chat, and I'm so excited to have you.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you both for. Go ahead.
Oh, I said it's just been really, really fun. I launched my first group this year after preparing all last year, and I'm in the middle of it now. And it's so amazing. It's just been so heartwarming and opening, and seeing all the women's transformation taking place. I mean, I'm just like crying. It's so powerful. The healing taking place is really mind blowing.
I'm also in it, and it's amazing to watch the impact of the work that you've poured your heart and soul into, Dawn.
Yeah. Thank you.
Believe me, I've seen it. I've seen the hard work. Many, many calls. Thank you so much, you both. And Dolphin, for Relationflix, and for your heart and soul into that project as well. And the content that you're stepping into a lot of really cool projects, and I love watching where you're going as well. And I love being part of it. Like your whole community is so, it's like a hand-picked, juicy, canoodly boundary puddle of just people who are just so loving and honest, and who know their work, and who are really, showing up for relationships as well as Relationflix. It's a really cool experience to be part.
Yeah, beautiful. It's awesome to have you. And yeah, for me, it's a pleasure. You talked about a triple win. That's really what it feels like to me. I get to enjoy all the beautiful people I work with, and that we get to deliver just amazing value and support to people that really want it. So it's a gift. I love it.
I want to start off with my thank yous today for the people who are listening and watching and sharing us out, and really showing up. Like, our viewers and our listeners, sometimes you text us and you message us, and sometimes we don't even know the impact that we're making. That when you share how this is showing up for you, and when we can integrate the people that we love, are the coaches that we love. Like, thank you so much for being here, and for really showing up every week. I'd also love to thank Sign Network for sharing us out to over 50 pages today, and Scott Katamis, Love Coach Academy and Global Peace Tribe. Your love and support means so much as we grow our little show. I'm excited for next week as well, and we will see you all 10 a.m. next Thursday.
Thanks so much.
Have an amazing week.